Need an education loan? Want to know? Join a webinar, don't go slow. Feb 19, save the date. 6 p.m., don't be late. Learn! Alan and Rob will break it down.
Right. So, hello, good evening one more time. We are going to start the webinar giving you information about the Student Revolving Loan Fund and the loans we offer and the conditions under which we offer them. May have some new information popping up also, so please stay tuned. We're going to start off the evening with Rommel Amy. He's the manager of loans and collections at the Student Revolving Loan Fund, and he's going to proceed to inform you about us. So, Rommel.
Hi, good evening. Good evening, everyone. We're going to start off tonight webinar with just a background in the Student Revolving Loan Fund and what we stand for. We're going to start off with our purpose. The purpose of the Student Revolving Loan Fund is to provide loans to eligible Barbadians to assist in financing areas of study, including various academic, technical, and vocational studies. Now, our mission is to provide loans to Barbadians for tertiary education on attractive terms in an efficient and caring manner, thereby contributing to the development of the nation's human capital. Our vision is to be the preferred financial institution in Barbados for tertiary education finance. And we also have our core values. We build trust. When we stand by our core values, we will be accountable, respect others, act with integrity, work collaboratively with synergy, and provide effective communication. Now, why choose Student Revolving Loan Fund? One, easy to qualify. You only have to be 18 years or older, a Barbadian, and obviously the program that you're looking to do should be accredited by an accredited institution or accredited program. You can apply from anywhere in the world via online to our website, www.srlloan.edu.bb. Study now, pay later. That is one of the advantages of Student Revolving, where you pay nothing while you study. You pay nothing up to 1 year after. So we have the study period. There's no payment there. And then you have what we will call the grace period, which is up to a year. And then the payment starts from the following year. Easy to repay. Our interest rates are one of the lowest in Barbados. Regular interest rate for the loans would be 5.55%. Very low. Okay. We have a few loans in our loan suite. We have the traditional student loan, where that is up to a maximum of 125,000. I remember you could pay nothing until up to 1 year after completion of your studies, and that interest rate is 5.55%. A second loan product that we have is our digital transformation loan, where this is an unsecured loan. You can borrow up to $6,000. And this loan is centered mainly for the purchase of computer equipment for educational purposes. We also have our top-up loan, where you can top up your existing student loan, pursue further studies before paying off your original loan. So just let me say, if you had a loan, sometimes persons would say, you know, you need to clear the loan that you had from before. But we have a top-up loan where you, if you still have a balance on that original student loan, you can come and top up, where then you can be able to then acquire funds to further your studies. We've also embarked on the last, I think it was the last 2 years, on the training loans, which should be AI and cyber loans. Now, these loans really a partnership between the Ministry of Education and the Canadian partner Protector, Student Revolving as a financier. And for the A loans, the maximum for the A loan is $8,000. And for the cybersecurity loan, the maximum is $4,000. Both those loan facilities are at an interest rate of 3.5%. They all come with, they have the option of a laptop. If you don't acquire a laptop, the A loan would be $6,000, I think, and the cyber loan would be $11,000. And one of the good things about these two training loans would be that on completion, there's a job placement component so that at least you'll be able to, have some experience in the job market after you've done the relevant studies. Okay, so I'm just give you a short run through of our digital transformation loan. Right, you can borrow up to $6,000 as an unsecured facility. Right, the interest rate is 5.55%. The repayment period can run anywhere between 24 to 36 months, and the requirements are pretty simple. You have your ID card, your job letter, your payslip, and the proof of address. Now, for mainly this loan is conceptualized for educators, parents and guardians of students purchasing computer equipment for online teaching and learning. And that facility, as I said earlier, all of our loans can be, you can apply online. So you'll be able to go on our website and apply for the loan, this digital transformation loan. Yeah, I'm going to pass over now to Mr. Allen.
Right. So, hi, good night, everyone. So as Ramal said, we have several loan products. So I will talk about basically our standard loan product right now. So our standard loan product allows you to study anywhere in the world. There are limits based on what you're studying. So if you're studying at KFIL to finance your master's at KFIL, we lend up to $65,000. To finance a master's 1 year or less, up to a maximum of $75,000. And if you're doing an undergrad degree anywhere in the world, because it's more than 1 year, we will lend up to $125,000. We do have a special partnership with Edinburgh Napier, where if you are financing to Edinburgh Napier through the Student Revolving Loan Fund, we pay all the funds directly to the university, so you can take advantage of the discount that you receive from them. So as I was saying, we finance any area of study once it is post-secondary. We finance local, regional, international, online once the program you're doing is accredited. However, locally, not only accredited, but we look at once the program is recognized by the Barbados Accreditation Council, we will also finance it locally. So the areas of study, as I said, any post-secondary areas, so that is vocational, professional certification, diplomas, associate degree, advanced diplomas, from bachelor's straight to PhDs that we will lend for. In the lending area, we will lend up to, as I said, $125,000. The maximum study period that we lend for right now is 5 years. So you have 5 years to naturally complete the program. If you're studying at UE or any of the UE campuses, a bachelor's full-time, you would say a 3+1, which is a 4-year maximum, which also is what the government pays for. Part-time is 4+1, which is the maximum that the government will pay your tuition for also. Right. So these are some of our lending limits. So if you're studying locally, as I said, we go to a maximum of $65,000 because not every degree at the University of the West Indies is sponsored by the government. If you're studying online, we cover tuition costs only, but you can add a laptop to that loan up to a maximum of $3,500 for that device. Regionally, we lend $24,000 to $125,000. So if you're studying at St. Augustine campus at UE, St. Augustine, where the government is covering your tuition, we will lend $15,000 per academic year for living expenses. We also lend $15,000 per academic year for Hewitt Law School. At Mona, we will lend $12,000 per academic year. Once it's something that the government is covering. If not, we will lend the $12,000 plus tuition. At KFIL, we will lend a maximum of $4,000 per year once it's a degree that the government is covering, undergrad degree the government is covering, and we will lend, that's for full-time students, and we lend $2,500 for part-time students. If you are a student at the Barbados Community College, there are several lending limits. So for the Disney program, which persons at Paul Marine does, the limit for that is $15,000. That program is one term to 1 year. If you are studying nursing, right now nurses can borrow a maximum of $7,000 per year. However, we're reviewing the limits right now to increase some of those limits. Medical students sponsored by the government of Barbados attending any 3 of the UE campuses will get, while the 2 overseas will get a maximum of 15 and 12,000. However, if you're not sponsored, we will cover the tuition. Medical students studying at KFIL that is sponsored by the government, which means the government is paying your tuition because they only pay a maximum of 25. You will get $7,500 per year instead of the 4,000. As I said, international studies all depends on what you're studying and there are limits for that. So like postgraduate certificates, for postgraduate certificates 1 year or less, $50,000. Postgraduate general certificates 1 year or less is 25,000. That is a certificate that that is equivalent to, we would say, high school diploma or slightly under associate degree. That's $25,000. Right, so I would have went through some of these limits already. Right, so as Ramel mentioned, he would have mentioned the digital transformation loan is a maximum of $6,000. The only requirement with this loan is that the person that's taking out the loan has to be working, because this loan is instant repayment. So this is one of the only instant repayment loans on our books, where you have digital transformation loans go to a maximum of $6,000. The only condition is that you must be able to have a salary deduction. And one of the few things that we look for as it relates to sureties, beneficiaries, persons that are applicants, basically, is one of the few things that we do that normal commercial banks do is we do credit checks. And your credit has to be 4 active current or below. And yeah, so that's one of the few requirements that we have. We don't necessarily work out a full debt service ratio, but we will look at pay slips and stuff like that. Right. So as Ramel said, the top-up loan. So the top-up loan is naturally most persons that further in their studies. So you will find like persons that have bachelor's degree, maybe the LLB in law, their LLB, yes, will go on to get a top-up loan to go and do Hewitt. Persons, accountants that want to do ACCA and stuff like that, they will get a top-up loan to do the professional designation. Or some persons, like persons that study psychology, would then go and get the top-up loan to do counseling or clinical psychology, which allows them to practice in the field that they studied. So the top-up loans are for persons that want to continue their educational journey. So basically with the top-up loan, your current loan just needs to be in good standing, and you have to have some mechanism to secure the loan. That is one key feature of the loans, with the exception of the digital transformation loan. All of our loans are secured either with surety or some form of security. A surety is anybody 60 years and 18 years or older, maximum 60 years. Have to be working for at least 2 years and must be working for at least $30,000 per annum. One surety secures $30,000. Two surety secures a maximum of 50,000, and anything about 50,000 will have to be secured with some form of collateral. Right. So as I was saying, we do take various securities. We take land and property at 90% of the value, and that is 90% of the land tax value. The land and property must have no other liens. We only take out first mortgages on these, or well, first liens, first mortgages on these properties. We take cash and fixed deposits. We take this at 100%. The fixed deposits that we take are with Answer Merchant Bank, Signia and Capita. Those are the only fixed deposits we take right now. We take government bonds and treasury notes. We take any government paper at 100% of the value. Shares on Barbados Stock Exchange or Fortress, we take that at 60% of the current cash value. And we take life insurance policies, but we only take life insurance policy on the cash surrender value. So the policy must have a cash value, and we take that at 90%. So in the next few slides, you will see some videos explaining the various securities and how they work. So sureties first.
Thank you for choosing the Student Revolving Loan Fund. I'm here to talk about the surety requirements. The proposed surety must be at least 18 years of age and no older than 60 years of age at the time of signing the contract. The surety must complete the required form with contact and employment details. Proof of address must be submitted in the form of the recent utility bill or bank statement. Job letter and payslip must not be older than 3 months and a valid photo ID. In addition, for self-employed persons, you are required to submit financial statements and an affidavit from a lawyer confirming income and expenditure of the business.
Right, so the next videos will go through the various types of security. Just a key point to highlight is that the surety does not necessarily have to be your parent. It just has to be somebody who's willing to sign the contractual obligation with you. And also the security doesn't have to belong to you. It can belong to a parent, a relative, or whoever has enough, a godparent, whoever has enough faith and believe that you will repay the loan. They can pledge to be a surety, or they can pledge security.
At the Student Revolving Loan Fund, we are striving to make loans accessible for all ages. Therefore, in addition to sureties, we also accept security. While security is required for all loans over $50,000, we also accept security in the absence of sureties for loans under $50,000. We accept 7 types of security. However, I will speak to you on 3. Life insurance policies, cash, government bonds, and debentures. 1. Life insurance policies. The Student Revolving Loan Fund takes insurance policies at 90% of the cash surrender value and not the face value on all life insurance policies. You must submit a signed pledge letter from the owner of the policy, which provides permission for the fund to use the policy as security against the loan. A recent statement from the insurance agency and one form of ID for the policy owner. 2. Cash. The Student Revolving Loan Fund takes cash at 100% face value. What is needed? A very recent bank statement that shows the amount of cash, a signed letter from the owner giving permission to use the cash as security, and a valid copy of the account holder's ID must be submitted. Once the loan is approved, the cash is required to be paid to the SRLF in the form of a banker's draft. 3. Government bonds. A very recent bond statement and a pledge letter giving permission to use the bond as security against the student loan. In the previous video, you have learned about 3 of the 7 forms of securities we accept at the Student Revolving Loan Fund. I'm here to talk to you about the remaining 4 forms of security. 1. The Student Revolving Loan Fund accepts shares that are traded on the Barbados Stock Exchange. You are required to submit a recent statement from the Barbados Stock Exchange and a pledge letter giving permission to use the shares as security against the student loan. It is important to note that the fund discounts the value by 40%. 2. The Student Revolving Loan Fund accepts shares with Fortress Mutual Fund. You are required to submit a recent statement from Fortress and a pledge letter giving permission to use the fund as security against the student loan. It is important to note that the fund discounts the value by 40%. Please note that we only accept shares with Fortress, no other investments. 3. The Student Revolving Loan Fund accepts term or fixed deposits with Answer Merchant Bank, Capita, and Signia Globe Financial. You are required to submit a recent statement from the respective financial institution and a pledge letter giving permission to use the fixed deposit as security against the loan. 4. The Student Revolving Loan Fund accepts land or property. You are required to submit a recent land tax bill, plot plan, title deeds, conveyance, pledge letter giving permission to use the land as security, and a valid form of identification for the respective owner. It is important to note that the Student Revolving Loan Fund discounts these securities by 10%. For more information, please feel free to contact us at 535-0834.
Right. So that is the types of security we take right now. As I said, all of the loans have to be secured other than the digital transformation loan. So that's where we are at. All of our applications are done 100% online. Everything is uploaded online. And if you have any questions or queries, we normally encourage persons to reach out to us live chat during working hours, or you can send us an email, or you can message us. All the contact information, including our WhatsApp numbers, are located on the website. So we're going to go through the required documents.
Thank you for choosing the Student Revolving Loan Fund. Today I will be discussing the documents required for applying at the SRLF. To apply for a loan at the SRLF, the applicant must be a Barbadian citizen, 18 years or older. The following documents are required: a digital photo of the applicant on a solid background, valid government identification. You can use your national ID card, Barbados passport, or Barbados driver's license. Your most recent academic qualification, proof of address. This can be a utility bill or bank statement less than 3 months old. A medical certificate. This is the only original document which must be surrendered to SRLF. A transcript if you're already enrolled in the institution. Statement of annual tuition cost of the program from the institution. Document which shows annual housing and meal costs. Evidence to show your ability to cover shortfall between total cost of the program and the maximum amount SRLF might lend. This can be by way of award of scholarships, sponsorship from government, certificate of savings, or approved loan from a financial institution. If employed, 1 month's pay slips and a job letter. Both documents must be less than 3 months old. Acceptance letter or confirmation of enrollment. If you do not have the acceptance letter, you can still apply and the loan will be approved conditionally. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at customerservice@srlfloan.edu.bb.
Right. So those are the documents that are required from the person that is studying. As I said, she would have mentioned an acceptance letter. However, if you're not accepted into the program as yet, you can go ahead, you can apply for the loan. We will approve you conditionally utilizing the costing and stuff from the website, the school's website. And once you receive that acceptance letter, then it will be full approval and you just have to come in and sign the document. So you would already be conditionally approved for the loan study. I'm going to turn over to Ramel. He will go through some elements of repayment with you and repaying the loans. Over to you, Ramel.
Yes. For the repayment, here are some of the periods for some of the amounts which persons would borrow. For amounts up to 15,000, you have a maximum repayment time of 4 years. That's if the length of study for the program that you're doing is over 1 year. So that monthly repayment would be $373.23. For loans at $30,000, where the length of study is 2 years, you have a maximum repayment period of 7 years. Okay? So that would probably length of study, 30,000 would be probably around people doing like their masters and so on. And that repayment would be around $452. Then there's also, if you have a 1 year program, that's $30,000. You also have 7 years to a maximum repayment period of 7 years, which is a monthly payment of $465. Now, for persons utilizing the maximum amount of $125,000, depending on the type of security, you have a maximum repayment period of 20 years. And normally, if your length of study is 4 years, your monthly repayment, would be $950.80. Right. So let's talk about some repayment methods and when repayment begins. As y'all would know, it is the Student Revolving Loan Fund. So the whole revolving aspect of the fund comes through persons repaying their loans. So it's important that we have, make it easy and convenient for persons to pay the loans wherever they might be. So your repayment begins, you will be your repayment letter will be sent to you. We call it mode of repayment. We send that letter to you, I think is about 3 months before repayment starts, so that you're reminded that repayment will begin. And we have pay easy, no stress. We have multiple methods of repayment. There's the salary reduction. There's the online portal where you can be able to utilize your credit or debit card. There's wire transfers. There are also direct debits, direct deposits, personal checks, and also cash. Of course, persons from time to time would ask about if you have gotten a job, especially persons working overseas or studying overseas and they acquired a job afterwards, ask about repayment. So there you have the options there. And also we know that in the contract there is the bond where you're supposed to come back to Barbados and work. But however, if you would have acquired a job after your studies, there are steps you can take to basically be exempted from that bond. You would write to us requesting exemption from the bond, and you will state the circumstance. I guess it would be more than likely you have acquired employment overseas. Once you have written to us for the exemption, then normally it would not be an issue as far as being exempted from the bond.
Hi, Janine.
Right, so obviously we have some, if you don't pay on time, there are some things that would happen that could negatively impact you. So once you pay on time, you can avoid late fees. We have a late fee on loans. So once the loan isn't paid by the due date, a late fee is then generated. Also, paying on time, you avoid having a bad credit rating. We obviously have been linked directly to the credit rating agencies. So once you are not paying regularly or on time, or your loan falls in arrears, it will negatively affect your credit rating. And even though at the early stages, that would not be an issue, obviously going on to when you have acquired employment, or if you are looking to get financing from other institutions, whether it be a mortgage, car loan, or etc., your credit rating plays a pivotal role in that. So you don't want to, get yourself in a bad position as far as your credit rating is concerned. Also, not paying on time or paying on time means then that your sureties will not be called in. As you would know, sureties, when they're signed, they are also responsible for your loan. So if you don't pay on time, we would alert the sureties so that they know what's going on. And some cases, or most cases, ask them to assist, since that is part of their contractual obligation. Also, as far as security is concerned, the security for the loan. So if you're not paying on time, we might have to then look to liquidate the security to then clear the arrears or clear the entire loan. Also, paying on time, depending on how severe the delinquency or the arrears is on your account, it helps you to avoid legal proceedings. Our process as far as delinquent loans and arrears start from simple letters, reminder letters, and can go all the way through to the court process where you're served, and ultimately then, it goes through that process. So to avoid that, pay on time. Again, once you pay on time, because it's student revolving, you help other Barbadians to be able to benefit from the same opportunity that you have gotten. You're here, or you're able to get this opportunity because your predecessors would have paid back their loans when they have gotten refinancing. So in order to keep that rotation, we encourage persons to pay on time so that the fund will still be around to help your cousins, your sons, your daughters, your grandchildren, and to help Barbados on a whole. And obviously, if the loan is on time, and we spoke about it earlier about top-up loans, if you realize that you're looking to further your studies and you still have an existing loan, obviously one of the criteria you're going to look at as far as qualifying you to get additional funding will be to make sure that your loan is paid on time. So paying the loan on time helps you to qualify then to be able to top up your loan to further your studies.
And as Ramal said, yeah, these are methods that we can take, but we do understand life happens sometimes, you're unemployed and stuff like that. So we do offer accommodations, but the idea is that persons have to communicate with us, communicate with the various officers that they're assigned to. Just informing them what is going on. You may need an extension of study. You may not be working, and you may need a deferral, or you may need a reduced payment temporarily. And we do offer these things. But so it's just for persons to keep in contact with their either loans or collection officer and just have those conversations going on. We are currently running a campaign, Repay and Pass It On. These are for persons that have existing loans with us. I'm not sure if anybody on the call does, but what we'll do is that we will play a video just explaining the concept of Repay and Pass It On, and then we'll have a general discussion.
Hi, Janine. How are your studies? I've got big dreams. College, a career, making my family proud, but I need help. I can't do it on my own. I had a dream once too. The Student Revolving Loan Fund helped me make it real. By repaying my loan, I'm not just fulfilling an obligation. I'm giving you the same shot that I had.
Your repayment helps secure the future for tomorrow's students and rebuild your financial credibility. It's a win-win. Repay and pass it on to the next generation while securing your financial future. Visit www.srlfloan.edu.bb or call 535-0834 to discuss repayment options. The Student Revolving Loan Fund. Repay and pass it on.
So this campaign is running until March. So we extend the campaign until March 31st. With the campaign, if the loan is in arrears, or we can offer 80% of the additional interest. We can write off 80% of the additional interest. The loan will have to be liquidated within 3 months. We can offer flexible repayment plans. If the loan is in arrears and you can't clear the entire loan because it's not past due, but a part of the loan is in arrears, we are also offering a new element of it, which is not here, which is a 10% discount on the arrears. So you clear the arrears by March 31st, we will absorb 10% of the arrears. So then if you pay the full arrears, your loan will be an advance, because ultimately Student Revolving has absorbed 10% of the arrears. So you can just reach out. If anybody is on call that has a loan, you can just reach out to your various collection officers or your recovery officers, and they will be able to get you the calculations of what the offer to you would be. As I said, the next point is flexible repayment plans. So ultimately, everybody may not be able to get other financing or clear their loans. So the flexible repayment plans is basically where you have discussions with your officer. You're not working, your loan is in arrears, but you're not working. We will see what you can afford. We go through statement of affairs, your current spending and stuff like that. What is more feasible? Can we restructure your entire loan? Restructure your entire loan for you to complete on time? Do we restructure your loan to give you additional 6 months to pay the loan at past your maturity date, payments that you can afford? So all of that is available to persons in the Repay and Pass It On campaign.
Having challenges repaying your student loan? The Student Revolving Loan Fund is here to help. With our Repay and Pass It On initiative, you can qualify for a personalized repayment plan, up to 80% off additional interest or a rebate when you clear your loan balance. Plus, repaying now can boost your credit score. Repay and Pass It On, so that more Barbadians can benefit from easily accessible loans to pursue their academic dreams. Visit srlfloan.edu.bb or call 535-0834 to take advantage of this offer before December 31st, 2024. Special conditions apply.
So as I said, the offer has been extended until the end of March. So here, this is kind of officially the end of the presentation. However, the Student Revolving Loan Fund is in the process of launching new products. So within the next 2 to 3 months, we will be launching back to school loan. We will have the lowest interest on the market for back to school loans. We will also offer something that we call something that's more for smaller educational loans, where all these loans are instant payback loans. The smaller education loans is up to a maximum of $10,000. But these are for like persons that are doing short courses, persons that are working and doing the ACCA, persons that are working and just doing professional destinations and stuff like that. We offer $10,000 instant payback. Within all of these loans, we do have insurance that we pay. The Student Revolving prepays your insurance while you're studying. And then that obviously you pay that back after. So the insurance on the loan covers accidental death. If you're sick for a prolonged period of time, the insurance will cover that period that you were sick. Right, so accidental death, sick. If you become disabled, they will cover the loan thing. So it's just to keep us up to date. As Ramal said, we have the lowest interest rate on the market, which is 5.55%. We do not charge interest while you're studying. We offer up to 1 year grace period after the contractual end of study date, wherein you don't have to pay. Ultimately, if you repay the loan while you're studying, or if your parents or somebody repay the loan while you're studying, then you will ultimately get an interest-free loan, because we do understand, yes, we operate on interest, but the option is there to have an interest-free loan if you're working and you're able to repay the loan while in the 1 to 3, 4 years that you're studying. So these are the first set of people that you will meet, which are the loans off our loans officers, Monique Wilson, Marshall King, Kadisha Fort. All of their contact direct numbers are here. They can assist you in any way possible. You can also call 535-0843. 535-0834, sorry. 535-0834, and one of our customer engagement specialists can also help you. So I think that's it for us. So we will turn over to you for any questions that you all have. If you want to speak, you can raise your hand. We will allow you to unmute your mic, or you can type the question in the question and answer the chat, and we will read the question and answer the question.
So I hope that was I know that was a very informative session for you guys. Some of the highlights of the Student Revolving Loan Fund is that we are designed for students, and you don't have to pay during the time that you're studying. Interest rate is very low at 5.55% for our traditional loans. We lend up to $125,000 for you to study anywhere. I see a question here. Do you have to be in Barbados physically to complete the process of the loan? I will start off by saying that all applications are done online, so you don't have to be here to do that part of it. You also upload your information online also, but you do have to sign. And if I'm not mistaken, Alan, documents can be FedExed, etc., for persons to sign and submit.
So we only allow the applicant to be overseas, so the person that is studying. So if that person is overseas, somebody will collect the documents from us, courier the documents to them, and then they will get them signed and witnessed overseas. So we have a list of individuals that can witness documents overseas, just as the Ps, notaries, persons from the consulate, stuff like that. So you do have a list of persons that can witness the documents overseas for them to be legally binding. And so yes, the documents can be administered overseas and returned to us.
Is there a limit? Alan, I'll come back to you with this one too. The next question is there a limit to how much a property must value to be a surety? So there are two things that need to be clarified there. The property would not be a surety, it would be used as security. A surety is an individual who actually signs on to say if you don't repay the loan, they would take on the repayment for you. As a very last case scenario. Now, as to the question about the value of the property, I will let Alan go into that a little deeper.
So the value of the property all depends on how much you want to borrow. Most properties will be valued more than our limit. So no, we just state 90% of the value just have to be 125,000 or more if you're looking to borrow the full amount. But no, so that's about it. As Alan said, sureties is somebody that was signed. The surety just has to be 18 years or older, a maximum of 60 years, working for 2 years or more, making $30,000 per annum.
Okay, Kiba, you have a question? You can go right ahead and ask.
Okay, I think it was kind of answered because I went to confirm if it was a case of loans over 50,000, if it is the two sureties plus a security as well. But I think he kind of answered it just now.
Okay, no problem. Well, glad we answered that. The next question we're seeing is, do we provide loans for UK schools? I would say that yes, we do. We provide loans for persons to study pretty much anywhere in the world once the school is accredited. Accreditation is extremely important because what that means is that the program, well, the school that you're looking to study at would be recognized by employers wherever you go to find employment. In some cases, the program itself has to be accredited also. So once the program is accredited, again, it would be recognized by professional employers. So if you're doing engineering, for example, or you're doing medical studies, etc., it is extremely important that the program that you do is accredited so that when you do come back or even go anywhere in the world to find work, that the piece of paper that you would have spent so much money on and so much time getting is actually recognized and you're able to be employed and not underemployed or unemployed, worst case scenario, after going through that. So yes, we do provide loans for UK schools. Next question. If you received a full scholarship or other funding and don't want the loan anymore, can you return the money borrowed and will there be any penalties? Alan or Romel, you can take that.
Pay early, pay less. There's no penalties. Even if you get a partial drawdown, you don't want no further drawdowns. There are no penalties. We will still honor the no repayment until if you keep the money, we will still honor the no repayment until the end of contractual study. There is no penalties for early repayment, no penalties for canceling or closing loans.
Just remember though that just to break down the interest scenario, while you're studying, zero interest is charged. But if you were in this scenario were to keep the funding up into when you actually in your grace period, the interest starts to be applied during the grace period. All right, so that
Right.
is what would happen there. But as he said, there's no penalty for fully paying off the loan
Right.
or canceling the loan from your end.
Right.
At
The
all.
only thing that you would have to cover would be insurance because from the time you do a disbursement, we have to pay insurance on that money. And you would have to cover what we call stamp duties and adjudication fees. The adjudication fees are 1% and the stamp duty is $50. And that is what we have to pay out to get those contracts legally binded and registered in the land registry and the Supreme Court because we have to register all of our contracts because we're government.
Okay. Okay, I think the other one was if so with schools. I think we would have covered that a bit. As I said, any accredited school, and in some situations, we depend on the course, any course. We would advise you though to do some due diligence and choose programs that have a acceptable level of marketability, so that finding employment or even being able to apply it properly to self-employment works. Because at the end of the day, you then still have the loan to repay, and you still would like to, earn some money when you've graduated. So investigate the schools and investigate the programs to make sure that they're good.
And if you're
If
unsure about the accreditation, you can actually just reach out to the Barbados Accreditation Council. They will actually, well, for a small fee, I think it's less than $100, they will do the accreditation searches for you and give you all the accreditation details, when the school was accredited, when the accreditation was renewed, etc. All of that is available through the Barbados Accreditation Council.
Okay, that's very important. If you are not appointed, will that stop you from getting a loan? Absolutely not, because to be honest, you don't even have to be working to access the loan because the loan is designed for persons who are, well, students, and the average student isn't working. And for persons 18 years and over. So like a person who's 18 years coming out of school can apply for a loan from the Student Revolving Loan Fund. No working history, not working to be able to apply for the loan. So no, you don't have to be so you definitely don't have to be appointed to get the loan.
Right. And if you're talking about a surety, ultimately the surety just needs to show that consistency of working 2 consecutive years. They don't have to be appointed. We do know how the appointed system does work. It takes a while, but once you're consistently working, you can also be a surety.
Okay. The next question. Good night to you, Ashel Bartlett. I will not be 18 until May. Can my parents apply on my behalf? That's the first half of the question. So you're not being 18 until May. There are ways that we can actually still take the application from you. You just have to call us to speak to a loan officer, etc., to make that happen. Um, because it will just be, well, that's just like what, 2 months or so from here. So that is something that is easily fixed. So you can actually start your application. The second question, is it possible to use the equity in your home as security for the loan? Alan, Ramel. Ramel?
Well,
The equity, because if you say if it is that, as long as the property still has a mortgage on it and there's a first lien, then we wouldn't be able to use the property as security. If it is though that the property is free of any liens, then it is fine. The equity is possible, but if you're looking at equity in the sense of the value of the property less any obligations, then no, we wouldn't be able to use the property in that aspect.
Okay, cool. I hope that clarifies that for you, Ma. The next question, if you have two sureties, must both sureties be 60 years or under?
that's correct. Both shorties have to be 60 years or under. That is the legislation requirement. So that's what we have to abide by. So yes, please. The person can be turning 61, but they must sign the contract before they're 61.
And that applies to both sureties.
Mhm.
So yes, good evening, Renee. Is there an age limit for persons applying for the cybersecurity loan? Again, you have to be 18 years or over, so no hardcore stated age limit for application. Okay, good night. How are you required to show your ability to cover shortfall between the total cost of the program and the loan? Romel?
Yes, right. So normally we would ask persons to produce either if you're using cash, you would produce the statement from the bank or the financial institution where the proposed money is going to be used from. If it is a case where we're looking at the cash surrender value of insurance policy, where that you would probably take out the loan to get those funds, we would ask to then see the insurance, I think is not the summary, but we look to see what the cash surrender value is, that statement, and that will be the evidence that we would need to be comfortable to know that the shortfall will be covered. So those are the main things that we would use. Accompanying that information to if will be a letter then from the person, if it is not your money or your bank account or your insurance policy, will be a letter then from the person who the funds belong to, stating then that there are making the funds available to be used as a shortfall for your studies. Because as you would know, that we also have to make sure that when Student Revolving does their part with the financing, that you also have enough funds to cover the shortfall. So it's important then that we have those pieces of documentation to show that one, the shortfall is actually there currently. So that's why we will look to add these statements and so on. And two, especially if the shortfall isn't coming from you directly or from you directly, then the letter then with the person pledging the amounts for the shortfall.
And just remember there are different sources of shortfall. So what is also considered shortfall if you apply to us for a loan and you get a scholarship or any other form of grant or assistance like that, you can utilize that as shortfall. So some people would ask whether or not they can get funding from another institution, etc. Again, once it is making sure that the full cost of the program is covered, then you can show that as evidence of shortfall.
Right. And what some people do to reduce the cost of studying overseas is that they stay with a relative. So once you're staying with a relative, we would ask you to provide a notarized letter from the relative overseas stating that you are residing with them, and ultimately that reduces how we calculate the loan. Because when you are living overseas, living and studying overseas, we calculate the loan. We look at tuition, we look at living expenses such as housing, meals, transportation, miscellaneous, and we move from there. So if you are to reduce the cost, we normally advise persons that they can live with a relative overseas, live with the relative. That reduces the cost of housing significantly, because if you're doing a 3-year program, housing can run you probably almost 90,000 Barbados dollars on campus. So we normally advise that also to reduce the cost of the program where possible.
And a little, as we are speaking on cost reduction, and one piece of advice that we give students over the years is that if you, especially for persons doing first degrees and associate degrees and those kind of studies, the University of West Indies and Barbados Community College, they offer world standard qualifications. So for instance, let's say you wanted to do a bachelor's in business administration or something like that, right? That is something that is quite easily covered at the University of West Indies. But if you were to, per se, go to do it in the United States of America, you would definitely be looking for a shortfall, because it would cost you more than $125,000 that we are looking that we would lend. So what we usually advise persons to do is to do the first degree at the University of West Indies, and then after that, if you will need to do your master's in some instances. Pursue your master's overseas. And the thing about it is that when you pursue your master's overseas, it often comes out to less than what you would have paid for a first degree overseas, just by the fact that it is a shorter time that you'll be studying, and you get a lot more bang for your buck. So just want to put that in there to don't discredit the local institutions such as the University of West Indies and the Barbados Community College for those introductory level studies. Does the surety have to reside in Barbados?
So the surety must be working and living in Barbados. The only surety that cannot be living in Barbados is if they're working for a Barbados consulate or a diplomatic mission through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That's the only way we can accept a surety not currently living in Barbados, and that's because they're still being paid by the Barbados government.
Okay. Next question. Do you lend to self-employed individuals? Yes, we do. As I said, once you have found a program that you're looking to pursue, and it's accredited, and in some cases once the school is accredited, and in some cases the program is accredited, yes, we will look to facilitate that loan for you once all the other I's are dotted. I came in late. Are we paying back monthly as we study, or when we are finishing studying? It's okay. We can repeat on that because that's one of the main features of our loan. No, you don't pay back monthly as you study. Actually, while you study, you're not required to pay back. And we go a little further on that, is that while you study, and no interest is charged during that period of time. But if you are in a position to start repaying from that period of time, we do encourage you to do so. There's no specific amount that we ask you for. You can pay once every 3 months, whatever you can handle. If you get a windfall and you want to pay off the whole loan, then you can go for that also. Because what that does is that it then gives you the opportunity to have an interest-free loan or significantly interest-reduced loan, because when interest goes on, it will only go on the amount that you actually owe. So no, you're not required to start paying back monthly as you study. Your requirement to start repayment will start 6 months to a year after you've completed your studies, based on what we would have agreed up front. So for instance, if you finish your studies and you took like an extra year, then that, that may complicate the grace period that you would have had or agreed to with us. But on the normal circumstances, you have up to a year after. But remember that during that year is when interest goes on, that year of grace.
All right. So there is a question in the question and answer section.
Mm-hmm.
How aggressive do you go after the original borrower to pay their overdue loan? And secondly, can there be a situation where only one surety is paying for a delinquent borrower? I would say we go after the borrower very aggressively. We don't turn directly to the surety first. Our first approach is not to ask the surety. However, every person is equally and separately liable for the loan. That means that each person is equally liable, but also each person is separately liable. So if at the time of us having to go to court, which is probably, Ramal could correct me, which is probably 6 letters down the road to 6 letters.
Yeah,
of
6 letters or
notification
6 letters on that collector and 2
that
billets
collector
down
and
the
stuff
road,
like
yeah.
that before we get to that stage. We naturally would then have to just take the funds from whoever's working at that point in time. We even before going to the court stage, we actually assign, if the person is overseas, we do assign these monies to overseas debt collectors and overseas credit bureaus. So it's not that we only search locally before going after the sureties. So all of that is done within the period. The problem is, as I said, and the problem is communication. As I said, one of the biggest problems we have with our delinquency portfolio and delinquent clients is communication. So the sureties is receiving letters, the sureties not replying to us. There are so many borrowers replying to us. There are also so many borrowers paying the loan. And why I always advise persons, you're a surety on an account because you're equally liable. Check up on the account. If you have information on the borrower, where the borrower is working, anything of that, you as a surety pass that information on to us because we would know what to do from there once we get that information. So it is not a case wherein we just say, oh, well, the surety said they're not working, we can't get in contact with the surety, let's just let's just garnish a salary or implement a salary reduction. We do have communication before. We do ask both sureties, we do ask for meetings, but it's for persons to communicate with us and effectively communicate with us.
Right. So that, and then there's another one here. Is the digital transformation loan only for computers, or does it include electronic devices like iPads and tablets? Technically speaking, an iPad and a tablet is a computer. So yes, it would include those things. So any tool that you need in your teaching or studies, etc. If you're teaching photography and you need a camera, that will fall into that because technically a camera is a computer in these times too. So it's electronic piece of equipment, any equipment that you need to assist you during your studies.
Except a phone.
Except a phone. A phone is special, but yeah, except a phone. A bond. We mentioned the next question is, and please, if we didn't fulfill your answer as you would have liked, please feel free to ask again, whether or not it's in the chat or vocally. You mentioned a bond about returning to Barbados if studying abroad. If further information on this bond Is further information on this bond available? Under what circumstances are persons exempted? Are there any penalties for not returning? No, the bond that is written is, as you would imagine, is to encourage persons to come out of Barbados and pretty much work here to be able to repay the loan. But please know that if you are overseas studying and when you're finished studying, you're offered a job, it's not the business of these. We're not in the business of asking you to drop your job overseas to come back to Barbados to look for work to try to pay us back. That's not what we do. What we would ask you to do though is to inform us that you have found an opportunity overseas to work and that you're pursuing that opportunity, and then we would put things in place with regards to the repayment of the loan. I hope that
Yeah, let me
answers
add
that
to you,
question.
Alan, as
Could
well.
add to that.
Alan,
Yeah.
also too, we would need the evidence to show. So it's not only that you're going to be saying that you're working, but we would like to see some evidence as far as the contract or, something that would physically give us that confidence to know that it's just not that you're saying you're working and you can't come back, but you actually have been offered the job or you actually are working. So the contract would evidence of the contract too would need as well.
Right.
And just to add to that, because most persons would use their loan contract ultimately to secure their visas, their student visas overseas. You do have to get the bond from us. I know the Canadian High Commission asks us that if you're applying for a work permit to stay on, they do ask for you to get the letter with the bond, with us allowing you to break the bond for you to stay in Canada. The U.S. Embassy also does it in rare circumstances, but the Canadian High Commission definitely does it.
Okay. Well, there's a question here for some clarity. We would have answered it earlier about if you're not appointed. But apparently what the person would have applied for would be the digital transformation loan. The way the digital transformation loan is set up different to the regular loans, in that the digital transformation loan, as was mentioned before, there is unsecured. The special condition is that there's no like grace period like with the other scenario. I think is like 1 month or something like that. The grace period is,
Yes,
and on top of that, you can only access it through a salary deduction. So the further to the question is that if you are not appointed, would you qualify for that program?
So I don't want to say yes, I don't want to say no, because when you're not appointed, it all depends on how the letter from I'm assuming we're talking about the government agency is worded, and also if when we call them, if they're identified, because they do identify sometimes that persons would be at a threshold or they can't deduct what we're asking them to deduct. So it all depends on how the letter was worded. One, how it was said. If there were bricks in between the temporary appointments, all of that are factors that are taken into consideration. I would ask the person to if they can give me a call tomorrow. My direct extension is 535-0842, and I can look into that. But yeah.
Any credit rating?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
535-0842. So you can give Alan Farmer a call to get some further clarity on that. Right. So the next question is, can you borrow funds for food, clothing, and anything miscellaneous? No, if you're getting a loan to study in Barbados, then the loan will only cover mainly tuition. In situations with UE, it will cover the amenities and stuff like that. The
It covers
digital trans,
It will cover
yeah,
miscellaneous too, because we give 4,000 now.
yeah, to cover some miscellaneous stuff. So like especially if you're studying overseas, those are food, clothes, and miscellaneous materials are actually part of the full cost of your studies that you would have to declare. So you would be able to utilize the funds to cover those things. And when you go, but the thing about overseas studies more so is that, for instance, you get $100,000 to go overseas to study, and the tuition is $10,000. The $10,000 in tuition goes towards the school directly, and the rest of the funds is pretty much at you to manage and spend in things that you would require, which would include food, clothes, and miscellaneous items that you require to actually live. because you're not going there just to study. You have to be able to be comfortable while you're there. So you may need to buy some warm clothes or whatever the case is maybe. And part of the cost also includes air travel. So all those things you will need to declare as part of the cost of the program for us to make sure that everything is covered. If it
And what's
is UE,
important to
go ahead.
note as it
Mhm.
relates to studying and disbursements is we should involve and disburse equally. So if you're approved $30,000, your disbursement for us would be $10,000 yearly. You have to maintain grades because student revolving does not pay for receipts. So ultimately, if you have failed a certain amount of courses in a year, your GPA falls below 2. So we look at the grades and then we look at the GPA. Then we may have to tell you you have to finance the next semester yourself, bring up your grades, and then resubmit a transcript. But every year you're supposed to submit an official transcript for further drawdowns of your funds. So that's important to know. Equal disbursement, official transcript every year for further drawdowns. Student revolving does not pay for receipts.
Okay, great. If I should just try to make sure that I don't miss any questions. Can you borrow funds for clothing? If it is UE, do you pay the monies directly to the University of the West Indies?
So if you are doing a program that the government is covering the tuition for, we pay the money to the student. If you are doing a program where you are which is a self-finance program, there's some self-finance in bachelor's and there's some in master level. If you're doing a self-finance program, then we will pay the money to UE and then you will be responsible ultimately for your amenity fees, because with masters we will pay the tuition and you'll be responsible for the amenity fees, which is probably like $1,100 a year or so. But however, if the government is paying your tuition, which they do for most bachelors at KPhil, some masters, most bachelors at the other two UE campuses, then we'll do the money directly to the person. The only UE campus that if you are self-financed that we sending money to the student is Mona. And that's because Mona has a special portal that they utilize to track money and it's easier for the student to pay. But other than that, we will pay the University of the West Indies the tuition and the balance comes to you. And if it's on the ground that is funded, the money goes directly to the person. However, sometimes what we would do is in certain scenarios, we will pay the amenity fees, which is $1,000 to UE, and then the balance of the funds will go to the person.
Okay. How long does it take to find out if your loan is approved?
So that varies. And the reason it varies depends on the time of year you're applying. So that's why we ask persons to apply early, so that we can get them through the system as fast as possible. So sometimes we would naturally say an average of 10 business days from the time that you have submitted the last piece of information that the loans officer require from you, because you may upload the information, but the loans officer may ask you for additional information, and the additional information may be for the loans officer to defend what you're studying, because the loans are approved by our management credit subcommittee. So sometimes the loans officers and myself and Ramal sometimes have to write defenses for what you're studying and why we should finance what you're studying, and stuff like that. So there may be several reasons that we need to defend the program or the applicant. So with that said, we normally say 10 business days. If you are above the age of 55, our legislation says that the minister has to sign off on that the application before we can send it to our management committee. So that may take a little longer. So it all depends on the circumstance, and then it also depends on the time of year. So for example, if everybody decide that they're applying in August, then we may not be able to get everybody through the system in 10 days, because it takes a while for the management committee to review. It takes a while for us to review internally. So if you apply before the acceptance letter, let's go, and then we can. So in this current period, we can guarantee a 10-day turnaround. approximately 10 business days turnaround. But I can't guarantee that in the summer period, which is one of our busiest periods.
Hey, Alan, what we'll let you do is that if you could do a basic explanation of the journey from when a person applies to when it is actually approved.
Yeah, no problem. So you apply, you submit all your information online, your surety or pledger submits all the information online. The loans officer then within 48 hours of you submitting that application will review your application and reach out to you if there additional documentation needed, if there's additional things needed. Once the loans officer reach out to you, they normally will give you 5 business days to respond to them. If you don't respond to them in 5 business days, they revert your application back to draft for you to do the edits yourself. However, if the application is straightforward and everything is there, the loans officer then will pass on will then review the application. They prepare a summary of the application. Naturally, that is what's reviewed by the committee. From there, the application then comes to my desk. I review the application, we review the accreditation of the program, reviewing the credentials that you're going to get, review the level of the program, and that the level is actually what the level is. So all of that has to be done internally. From my desk, then it goes to the manager desk for the final review, and that final review could be more or less comprehensive, but it makes sure that we check all the boxes. So in this journey, we're looking at accreditation, we're looking at course content, we're looking at course costs, we're looking at if it is a program that needs to be accredited. If we can't find the accreditation, then we may have to reach out to the university. So all of that is in that period. Then from there, it goes to the management committee, our subcommittee for approval. They naturally would return the approval to us by email. Once that approval is back by email, then we would then send out the approval documents to you by email, and that is to the applicant. The applicant then is given some stuff that they have to return to us. They can book an appointment for them and their sureties or them and their pledgers to come in. And once they book that appointment and come in and the security certificate is signed, then the disbursement can be done. However, if it is security like mortgages and land and stuff like that, the reason we normally ask persons to apply early is that process takes a while, because if you're taking out a mortgage on a property or land, then there are several factors. There are attorneys included. There are external attorneys representing the interests of the parties, the owner of the land. There's the land registry included. There's the Barbados Revenue Authority included. So there's a host of persons included and in that part of the thing. If it's insurance policy, we have to make sure it's assignable and stuff like that. So as I said, we can get to the end where you sign the documentation, but after you sign the documentation, there's still little cleanups that we have to do with the external parties, depending on what type of security you're using. If you're using sureties, once you sign that documentation and all the sureties information is validated with their ID cards, etc., then we can do the disbursement same day or next day. So the journey is not that straightforward, because internally, there's a lot of investigations and stuff that has to go into what you're studying, the accreditation, if the school was ever deregistered, delisted, etc. All of that has to be done before the loan moves from the loans officer desk. So it's quite a journey for the loans officer. They try to do most of them in 2 days, in that review within 2 days, to reply to most applicants.
And that is very important because, I mean, as we've seen it in the past where we find things that the student may not necessarily know of. So it's actually protecting you, the applicant, from putting yourself in a situation where you are going to a bum university or institution to study. As far as your part of the journey, as far as applying is concerned, as I would have said, you're encouraged to apply early. No, you can start the application. You don't have to. Number one, there's a list of things that we require, which we would have gone over before. But remember, you don't have to wait until you have the acceptance letter from the university to apply. So once you found a university or any learning institution that you want to study at, right, you can actually start your application with the Student Revolving Loan Fund. The way the application is set up is that you don't have to sit down and do everything in one sitting. Once you start the application, you put in your like email address, etc. It will send you back a code so that you can revisit it and continue with your application at will. Now, let's say that you applied early, but then University B replied to you and said, "Well, I, I like you're accepted, but you prefer University B." You can also switch. You can even switch after you've had your application accepted. So it is very flexible to make sure that you get what you deserve and need at the end of the day. So bottom line, especially for during summer, looking to start studying in September, please start your application as soon as possible. The next question: are there allowances for disadvantaged students who don't have required sureties or securities?
So at this point, financing for that is very limited. We normally will try to probably navigate and try to assist pushing them to tertiary and having a discussion with the tertiary department who offer grants for them to get a grant, because at this point there's not allowances for us for us to offer loans without security. That's a policy decision and we have to stick with the policy. So we normally would try to assess those persons by directing them to the tertiary department in the Ministry of Education who can offer grants and stuff like that. And we will try to have a word with the head of tertiary on their behalf, letting them know, well, obviously the person doesn't qualify because XYZ, and if they have funds in their budget that they can assist the person at that point in time.
Okay, the next question I'm seeing here is if the maximum for an international master's program is $75,000, I would dare say no,
It depends on the length.
because it depends on the length of the program that you're doing. So for extra regional studies, I will put the link inside of the chat, because we do have loan limits assigned to different levels of study, different lengths of studies, and different locations of studies. For extra regional studies, on the graduate programs, up to $125,000. Graduate programs, masters 1 year or less, that's where the $75,000 will come into play. Graduate programs, masters greater than 1 year, then it goes up to the $125,000. Postgraduate degrees, MPhils, PhDs, etc., $100,000, and if it is part-time, up to $100,000. So you can go and review that link that I would have just put inside of the chat, and that would speak to where your particular program would be will qualify for. Let's see here. Can you apply if you are almost finished the University of West Indies? Yes, you can. You can apply at any point in time of study. So you can apply like most people would before they start the program to cover the full program. But if you find yourself, some people would start in a situation where they can self-finance or they're being financed by another situation, a scholarship or whatever. Sometimes these things fall through halfway or whatever the cases may be, and things change. So you could be at your last final year of the program. You can apply to us to finance that. But remember, if you're into the program, what you would have to supply to us is a transcript and proof of the length of time, which is pretty much proof of the length of time that you have left to complete your degree.
Right.
And obviously the standing that you have with the program.
Right. And that's what we also require if you're in the program is from UWE is we require a status letter, and we will also require probably a statement of account. And why the statement of account is very important is that the government is very stringent on the rule. So the government ultimately pays 3+1 for full-time students, 4+1 for part-time students. So if you are going to surpass that 5 years as a part-time student, you are then responsible for your tuition. and the university will bill you for your tuition. If you have passed that 4 year as a full-time student, you are then responsible. And it doesn't matter if you have switched degrees or anything like that, you ultimately will be responsible at that stage of financing to pay that tuition. So even if you're switched degrees, you do a degree for 2 years and then you switch to the next degree, that 2 years is counted into your 4 years. So we would also need a statement of account, which will determine if you will become responsible for your tuition.
Okay, cool. What's looking like the final question, unless any others pop up during this time? Does the security have to be a certain age?
The security doesn't have to be a certain age. The surety is what has an age requirement.
You're right, yeah.
Anybody can pledge. Anybody that is right in their mind can pledge security. However, if the person, so say the person is at a certain age and they're pledging a property, we may ask for a doctor just to say that the person is in sound mind when they're pledging the security to us to secure your loan. And that is because we are legally required to make sure that when a person is pledging security, there is sound mind and they're not being forced to pledge security to secure loans. There's a next question in Q&A. That is medicine studies overseas are generally 6+ years. Should I qualify for 125K and manage to pay it off within the 4-year period? Can I reapply? So ultimately, yes. If you have paid off that 125 in the 5 years, you can reapply. It can be done similar to a bridging loan. Some people, when our limits raised, then just use the current collateral that we had and reapply to go to the maximum limit also. So I'm not sure if we're looking to raise our limits anytime soon. I know we had the discussion internally, but as I said, these decisions are made. We have to abide by the legislation that governs us. But you can reapply, BSc to masters, etc. We do know Right, sorry, I'm not sure. I was disconnected just now. So yeah, so medicine is the only area that we go past 5 years. Any other program is a maximum of 5 years, including a PhD and ACCA and stuff like that.
Okay. I think that based on what I'm seeing, hope I didn't miss anyone. If I missed anyone, please raise your hand and let me know. But that seems to be the last question that we've had. There are more questions to be answered, but please visit our website, which I would have put some links there where you can peruse all the more detailed information about the loan and specifically how it applies to what you are looking to study. And remember that you can give us a call at any point in time. We have all the numbers here. You can write them down. You have the email. You can email us, or you can just, if you could come and visit us, we're located at the Ministry of Education, which is located in LT Payne Complex, directly opposite of Queen's Park. So yes, we're available to answer any questions that you may have. So again, thank you for taking time out this evening to spend some time with us to learn a little bit more about how we are here to assist students in pursuing their academic dreams. Just to reiterate, academic dreams in all different types of areas, all different types of schools. We are here to assist students as much as we can. Okay, one last question. My mom has been consistently working, but her current job she started 1 year ago. Can she be a surety?
Yes, she can. What we would ask your mom to do is she would just have to submit the certificate of employment from her previous job, because it just needs to be 2 consecutive years. It doesn't have to be the same job to be a surety.
All right. So I think that is the last question. So again, thank you very much, and please enjoy the rest of your evening. And we're available as soon as you're ready to talk to us. Thank you.
All right. Have a good evening, everyone.
All right, have a good evening, everyone. Good night.
All right.
Okay, great.